Guys, we're gonna go to our timer real quick, and so we can share this out, and then we'll be right with you guys. The timer is on. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Fourth and Goal broadcast with me and David. How's everybody doing? How you doing, David?
Well, I was doing great, and of course, we have a technical difficulty right out of the gate.
Hey, it never fails. But how's everybody doing? Week two was wild. Wild. We might have lost David for a second. Let him reset, come back. So, how's everybody's weekend? What did you guys think of week two? If you guys are fantasy players, which most of you guys are, dude, after this whole week, I think it's messed up a lot of fantasy people's teams. A lot of teams. Fantasy football has just got tricky with all these damn injuries this week. Even if you're a big better in the league, it's kind of, with all these injuries now, a lot of teams got banged up. Give David a second here. We'll get the show started. Here he comes. I think he's coming. How's everybody? We got a good show for you guys. As soon as he gets here, we'll get this rolling. It was what we got going in the chat. Sorry, I'm just finishing sharing a couple groups. Got that done. What a game. What a game. There's been good games. Atlanta game, Green Bay. I would say it's probably one of the top games this weekend. Even if you guys watched the Lions, that game was even though it was a loss, it was a hell of a game.
Drives me crazy.
We got David back, ready to get this show going. Let's get it going
Yeah,
here.
let me fix my green screen because this thing does this every week. It's unbelievable. Oh Lord. Okay. All right, give me a second.
David, you don't make me eat crow because you might as well just get it out of the way.
No, listen, I'm not gonna do that to you because we all saw what happened. There's no point in, I mean, I could rile you up a little bit. There's a lot of Detroit Lion fans that watch the broadcast, and I could give you, I've already posted what I was going to post, and now I'm done with it. I mean, you could stop planning the Super Bowl parade after the first week of the season. And I just want to talk about a few things. Let's talk some news real quick, and then we'll get to a recap of week 3. If you watched the games last night, horrific injury for Nick Chubb in the Cleveland Brown-Pittsburgh game. He's had reconstructive surgery on this knee before. It looks to me, plain as day, he's torn the ACL, the MCL, the PCL, the everything. And it's going to be a long road back for him to come and rejoin the league and play again up to the potential that he has played over the last several years. And this is why the running backs are trying to get their money. They're the ones that get, I'm not going to say they're the only ones that get hurt like this, but I mean, they put themselves in harm's way every time they take the ball. They're running between the tackles. They run to the outside. They've got linemen all around them, linebackers trying to take their head off. They go for the knees. That's what happened in this case. Minkah Fitzpatrick is doing what he's supposed to do. Let's get that straight first. He's making the tackle. It looks to me like, and I think Pittsburgh has natural grass field.
Yeah.
That his foot got caught in the turf and bit sideways, and that was all she wrote.
Well, his foot didn't get stuck in the turf like that. If you actually, I don't know if you've seen the replays. Somehow somebody got the actual replays that they went show on cable TV last night. I've seen 2 videos. When Fitzpatrick comes in, this is his knee. Fitzpatrick hits right there, and that's what made his knee do that. He came in there like a bullet.
There's a still shot photo of Fitzpatrick running into him, and here's the leg, and here's Nick Chubb.
Yeah, his toes are still in the dirt.
Completely sideways, 90 degrees from the body.
That was one of the wickedest.
We knew last night he was done. We didn't have to applaud the Pittsburgh Steelers fans. They saw the replay. You heard it on TV. Oh, and as he was getting carted off, they were chanting "Chubb, Chubb, Chubb."
That's awesome.
Yeah,
especially I know it's a rival game, but that is awesome.
Get hurt, like that. We know he's done. We know what kind of hard road it's going to be. The rehab. He may never play again. And I know we say this all the time. And these guys they fight and they scratch and they do what they got to do. And 18 months later, they're rushing for 1,000 yards, and you're like, it's unbelievable. Frank Gore tore his ACL like 3 times. Adrian Peterson was in 10 months and was MVP of the league. The medical science that they have nowadays is unbelievable. You can only imagine the kind of careers that people like Gale Sayers in football, Sandy Koufax in baseball could have had if they had the kind of medical technology that we have now.
Oh, dude.
And so you got to hope that everything's going to be okay for him. And we look forward to seeing him back on the field, or at least walking around under his own power with no crutches and, a healthy individual.
Yeah. Prayers to him for sure. I hope he comes back. I was nervous that he might have been done for his career, to be honest, after I seen that replay. Because that's 2 serious knee injuries to the same knee. But they said they expect him to make a full recovery, so that's good news. Hopefully he heals up, comes back bigger than ever next year. I know.
Yeah, and so this is the second week in a row, and there's a joke going around that I reposted on some of the Facebook pages.
Dude,
3 Monday night football games in a row where something catastrophic has happened on the football field.
Yeah.
And you can joke about it because you're not involved, and maybe it's, dark humor, if you will. I put, somebody, I stole it from them. I didn't give them credit, or whatever, but it said, what's going to happen next? Next week we got Philadelphia, playing on Monday night. They got a double header that overlaps like they did this week. Cincinnati and the Rams are playing. And I was like, well, Jalen Hurts is going to break 2 fingers on his hand doing the scrum for the first down on fourth and 1 on his throwing hand, and that'll screw their season. Case will tear his ACL because he's looking for a new contract. Something bad happens to these guys all the time, and you wonder why they're trying to get their money as soon as possible.
Exactly.
Because, these injuries can happen in the blink of an eye. We had J.K. Dobbins, Aaron Rodgers, both got hurt week 1. Week 2, now you've got Nick Chubb, CJ, Gardner Johnson tore his pec. He's done for the year.
I wouldn't say he's done for a year. I wouldn't say he's done for a year.
Listen, if he's not done for the year, okay, the IR that they put him on, it's temporary IR. He's got to be back before week 10 or something. Otherwise, he's got to be out for the year.
I'm surprised
they put him like 8 weeks to get cleaned up. I don't think if he has the surgery, he's done for the season.
I don't think he's going to have the surgery. I'm surprised they put him on IR because he played 70 snaps Sunday. 70. They didn't know he tore a pec until fucking last night.
Right.
So to me I was kind of optimistic before this part happened. Right. I'm like, are we about to see this dude just play the whole season and say fuck it and roll with it? So, I mean, he just made it through 70 snaps of football like that. And not once when the camera hit him after he came back from the sideline, you didn't see him glimpse. You didn't see him grab nothing. You didn't see him in pain at all. So it really threw me off. I honestly thought it was a fake article. I jumped on a couple people in Renegades, and I'm like, man, stop sharing this fake article bullcrap. And they're like, no, it's serious. And I had to go do my research and found out it was actually serious. I'm like, but how did he play the whole game then? Like, he missed like 2 plays of the whole game.
Yeah.
But
well, I think that J.J. Watt did something similar and played the rest of the game. And or if it wasn't him, it was his brother. One of the Watt boys in the last 2 years jacked himself up, played the rest of the game, and then when the game was over, they're like, yeah, well, it happened in the second quarter, but I wasn't coming out.
yeah. What do you call
The other bit of news to talk about here briefly is Patrick Mahomes is once again the highest paid quarterback in the NFL, which is, I saw a lot of Chief fans that are like, how does that guy to make Chris Jones feel? That he worked all this time trying to get a contract, extension or a deal for himself. And I mean, he got a little bit of a raise, but it's mostly in incentives. The Chiefs have been, reworking the deal for a while now from the information that I have. And they were basically waiting for all of the quarterbacks to get paid. They knew the Herbert was going to be getting a contract extension. They knew Burrow was going to get a contract extension. But Chris Jones was kind of holding things up because, there was a certain figure that they're looking to pay him. Didn't want to pay him Aaron Donald money because they're going to need the money that they saved by not giving him that top dollar to pay for these other players, and so, for all the Chief haters, the sky is falling now. Ha ha! They paid him. They're not going to be able to afford anybody, which is something that I have been talking about with you for a while. You've got people that are complaining that he was only the 7th and 8th. He's the best quarterback in the league. He's only the 7th or 8th paid highest quarterback, and the reason they're complaining is twofold. One, because as the best quarterback, which is pretty much generally accepted around the league, when he's taking less money than that, it holds back the market for other quarterbacks to get paid that high money. And while it's good for his team and maybe he's happy with it, it affects business around the league that he wasn't the highest paid quarterback when he should have been.
Yeah.
The second thing is that all of the people that want to see the Chiefs go in the toilet because they've been the flavor of the league going on about 6 years now, ever since Patrick Mahomes started and threw 50 touchdown passes in his first season as the starter. Everybody's been trying to get the Chiefs to go down. They're not a new story. They don't want to see them be a dynasty. They don't want another New England. It's time for somebody new to come in. They're dying for Buffalo and Detroit and Cleveland to do something because they haven't done anything in forever. And the way to do that is if Mahomes gets all this money, they won't be able to afford all these other players, and the Chiefs won't be the team to beat anymore in the NFL, because they can't keep all their players. See? And so that's one of the reasons why, now everybody's like, oh, we got his money. Yay, we got a chance to win. That's what it seems like on all of the fan sites, and you wouldn't believe the Raider haters, the people that are Raider fans that are like, yep, this contract's going to ruin them now. They're always looking for a bright spot, with their team being in the toilet, hoping that the teams that are good, go down so they can move up.
Yeah.
So that was big news there that he got his contract. But what they don't understand is that by restructuring his deal, not only does he get a raise, but the way that the contract is structured, I'm not a capologist, so I have no idea how it works out like this, but they're like magicians. Because he has such a long-term contract, they can spread out the bonuses and they can spread out the guaranteed money and they can spread out all this other stuff so far down the line that he makes more money than anybody else this year. And the team's got cap space for the next 4 years based on what he just did. And so everything, it's going to be great now. They're going down. And he freed up room so that he could sign all these players that they want to keep this next offseason.
And that's exactly why the Chiefs are competitive year after year, because they got a quarterback that wants his money, but he's not afraid to keep working that deal and making it work in both ways. So on the week 2 recap, I'm just going to get it kicked off here.
Okay, I've got a share. I got a thing so we can look at it if you want.
Go for it. It's all set up. I'm just going to get in my part with the lines here.
If I could do this without screwing everything up.
Now Sunday, a lot of haters, a lot of KC fans, and other North teams all came out and wanted to bash the Lions. Hey, just keep sleeping, because no one said the Lions were going 17-0. No one guaranteed we would. I didn't guarantee we'd beat Seattle. I knew Seattle's going to come and play, which they did. But I will say this: if you're going to blame anybody for a loss for Sunday, it's on Dan Campbell. You got the lead. You go for it. He goes for it 4th and 2 on his own 40.
I don't know.
He don't get it. They score a quick touchdown. You put the pressure on Goff now to come back and answer it. He throws the ball. Guy made a great read, picks it off, pick 6 to the house. Now he took his team from the lead to down 10. And the players come back and bail him out. Score a quick touchdown. Defense stops him, gets the ball back at the 50-yard line. He don't take a shot in the end zone. They play conservative. They tie it, kick it the field goal. Okay. They saved your butt, got you to OT. And then by that time, defense was gassed. Injuries piled up at that point. Not an excuse. It's just point in the game and OT. Your players gave it their all to turn a 10-point lead back to a positive with like 4 minutes left in the game, mind you. They're gassed. They gave you everything they got to give you the ball to go win the game. You didn't take shots. And now I don't mind Dan Campbell being aggressive, but it does bother me when you play aggressive all game and then you get to the point of the game where you should be the most aggressive to go win that game, and you take no shots to win that game. Now, granted, we got bit by the injury bug pretty bad. Montgomery's gone. We lost Houston to 6-8 weeks with the fractured ankle or foot. He might have to have surgery, so it's probably looking around 8 weeks. CJ Garner, torn pec, IR today. I was hoping that maybe he would play through it since he made it through 70 snaps. But the positive thing is they think he's going to come back before the year's out. So I'll take it. Next person up, Tracy Walker. It's on you. You know, you've played this game a while now. You're a veteran. I got trust in you. I don't think the Lions are done. I think we can easily beat Atlanta. Other than that, it was a very exciting game.
Typical, okay. That is typical. I don't understand why this early in the season a team loses one game and then they have to tell everybody, I don't think we're done. You know, you lost one game.
No,
Okay?
I'm just saying that
A team
because
that made the playoffs last year, okay, to a team that made the playoffs last year. Granted, they did not good in week 1 against the Rams. They lost at home, but the Rams are the number 2 offense in the NFL this year. They look kind of like I thought they were going to, and people are trying to talk me out of it because they didn't have all the big stars anymore. Matthew Stafford is hurt, and Cooper Kupp's out for the first, however many weeks of the season, and they don't really have a running game. Well, they found something in this Kieran Williams that they're going to end up trading or cutting or getting rid of Cam Akers. They tried to do it to him last year. They got in a disagreement. Then he came back in and he started playing all right at the end of the year. But he's done in L.A. Okay, Cam Akers is done. And if you've got him on a fantasy team, you might as well cut him, because if he can't play for the Rams, he can't play for anybody.
And no, exactly.
Their offensive line this year is unbelievably better than it was. I mean, they gave the 49ers all they could handle, on Sunday, 30-23. I know that they kicked that field goal at the end just because they could, but still, the 49ers are, in my opinion, one of the top 2 teams in the league right now, especially defensively.
Oh, for sure.
And they were in that game. They played them tough, and so in my opinion, okay, there's much overreaction when a team loses a game. You guys lost a game. Yes, it was at home. Calm down. You lost to last year and almost.
Hey, let me finish. This is not me freaking out, David. I'm calm. This is not me. I'm just going to tell you what's going on here in Detroit. You know how many phone calls I heard today talking about fire Aaron Glenn? It's week fucking 2. We lost 1 game. Our fan base is calling right now and they want fucking heads, because that's how stupid our fan base is. They don't know football because they're not man enough to stick to a whole season throughout the old bad years. Now, since the Lions got hyped up, they all came out, and now we lose 1 game, and this is what it goes to every time we lose. And it is so damn old, because guess what? Your team's not going to play a great game week in, week out. I don't care who you are. There's a reason why there's only 2 undefeated teams to ever beat, and that was the Miami Dolphins and the New England Patriots. Now I get it.
What did you say?
I said that's why there's only been 2 teams to make a perfect season.
Right.
If I'm not, you know what I'm saying? But here in Detroit, that's what they expect, because the media said we're going to be good. This is our year.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's like the fan base has PTSD. If one little thing happens, the sky is falling. You guys only give up, 20 points?
Yeah,
to the
23
points on their field. Now,
Yep.
Granted, the offense didn't have Kelsey. It's the first week of the season, but you guys were in the thick of it. Aiden Hutchinson was a beast. Okay, the secondary played great. You turn the ball over; those things happen. The Chiefs forced the fumble with Marvin Jones. Okay, and it was his first fumble of his career.
Yeah.
But we're talking about last week, and trying to justify this week. Let's talk about the Thursday night game. Okay.
I had one more.
Minnesota Vikings.
I had one more. Hang on 1 second. I had one more take. And when I bring this up, I don't want no one jumps. Hear me out. I just want to say this on both sides of the ball Sunday. That Lions and Seahawks game was the worst called officially game I think I've ever watched in my life. They called intentional grounding on Geno Smith. He threw the ball 10 yards down the field. before it hit the turf, before it went out of bounds. They call him potential grounding. I'm like, he threw the ball 10 yards. His receiver was right there, just got held up and didn't make it back to the ball. Like, they don't do that when people throw the ball out of bounds. Now you want to, worst call I've probably ever seen. And then another one I got to bring up, Kirby Joseph gets called for pass interference. Mind you, Metcalf grabs his face mask, has him by the face mask before he touches him, pulls him all the way, rotates, still pulling his face mask. He literally pulled him so close that Kirby Joseph was just literally fouling his head. And then they throw the ball. They call Metcalf for the pass interference or for the face mask. And then they turned around and said, "Oh yeah, pass interference on Kirby Joseph." And I'm like, wait a minute. How can you call him for a pass interference when he's literally getting pulled by his head? He's following his body so he don't get hurt. Like, you can't make the shit up.
Every team has one of those games where they feel like the refs are out to get them. And I understand. I've seen it a million times, and you just gotta move on. There's nothing you can do. I am in favor, and we've talked about it before, of a sky judge. They use it in the NFL. They use it in the USFL. You don't have to stop the game. He watches the replay. He sees the same thing you do on television. Okay? He may have a couple different angles as the game is going on, but the game is officiated on the field. When there are blatant things that are missed, when there are stuff that should be corrected, they've started doing this in the NFL the last several years, that after discussion is New York's calling and telling you that you're getting the play wrong, you did something wrong. It happened last night between the New Orleans Saints and the Carolina Panthers. Okay, the receiver, Michael Thomas, catches the ball, lands on his butt as he's going out of bounds. They called it incomplete. Now, they could have thrown the challenge flag, but it was clear and obvious that he'd landed on his butt in bounds. And so suddenly, without having to use a challenge flag, well, after discussion, the catch is complete, the ball's at wherever, this is how much time. And, they could do that on so many plays, and they refuse to do it. And because they refuse to do it, that's why, as a gambler myself, okay, I find that there is a shade of impropriety in how the game is officiated from time to time.
Yeah. It was just crazy. And like I said, I'm not making excuses by any means. I'm talking on both sides of the ball. It was just like, and to me, it's like, I get it. You're going to make some bad calls. You know what I mean? But I want to be mad at this guy judge myself. Because at this point, it's every week they're calling something different. They stop calling this. And it just keeps going on. And to me, no team should have to worry about getting a call and screwing them for the game. You know what I'm saying? But it's human. It was just
I'll
a wild game.
I'll tell you what I was happy about when it came to the officiating this week. And I'm a Chiefs fan. Every time they called Juan Taylor, the right tackle, for the false start or the illegal formation, I loved it. I hate that he sit back there like he does, because when he gets away from the line, he's telegraphing that it is a pass play. You must line up the same every time. If you do not line up the same every time, they're going to know if it's a run or a pass, unless you're intentionally tricking them. And he's not. If he's back and his head is to the butt and not the hip of the center, it's a pass. If he's lined up on the line, It's a run, And so I loved it when they were calling him, Now, there was a holding call on him that I didn't think was a hold, but that's okay. You got to live with those from time to time. It wasn't like it was a huge play and really affected the game, so I wasn't mad. But
Exactly.
that deals with the officiating and everything that we're talking about here. I think we should get to the recap. I don't have a graphic for the Thursday night game, but the Minnesota Vikings played the Philadelphia Eagles, and the Eagles won. But in the rematch from last year's Monday Night Football game, where the Vikings played at the Eagles, the Vikings played much better offensively in the game. They were in it till the end. Their defense played better against the Eagles. And so you can see growth from the Minnesota Vikings, but I will say they have no running game. Alexander Madison is not him. They let Dalvin Cook go for monetary reasons. They refused to sign Kareem Hunt, before the season started. And now he's going to end up back in Cleveland because of the Chubb injury. Yep. And so, for me, I just think that Philadelphia showed they're still the better team. Minnesota still got a ways to go, but I like the receiver they've added to the team from both last year and this year. The offense is going to be fine at passing the ball, but they got to find a running game or they're not going to make the playoffs, Chris.
I actually feel bad for Madison. I don't know if you heard what happened on his Instagram, but after that game Thursday night, he was DM'd, called the N-word multiple times, told to go kill himself, told him he sucks. And I feel bad for him because I feel like Madison is in a bad spot. I feel like Madison's that type of player that if you got a good back in front of him and he don't have all that pressure on him, he can sell. He can come in and change the pace, make some plays. Now you're asking this guy to be the starter, and he's clearly due with all respect because guess what? You don't make the fucking league if you don't have talent.
Right.
Period.
He fumbled the ball twice now. He fumbled the ball twice, and when he did get the ball, he didn't do anything with it.
Yeah. But that's where I feel like he's struggling because he's not used to being in that position. He's used to coming in there after, what's his name now?
Dalvin Cook.
Dalvin Cook would bust some runs, loosen the defense up. He would come in, catch a couple passes, do a couple runs, you know what I mean? Now he got all this pressure, and he just don't have that starter talent. He's that change of pace back, and I just honestly feel bad for him. But I also will say is Minnesota, they have some legit trouble over there because the first two games, they've been a turnover machine. They had 3 turnovers in the game one. Game two, they had 5. So they definitely need to do some work. They didn't play. The game should have been way out of reach, but Philly struggled on their own, and that's why they lasted such a close game. But they got lucky that there was even that close of a game.
Looking at the other games on Sunday, we had the Baltimore Ravens beating the Cincinnati Bengals 27-24. And, Baltimore had a pretty substantial lead in this game at a certain point in time before Cincinnati started to come back. But Burrow has hurt his calf again. I don't know if he's going to play this next week. They started 0-2 last year, still made the AFC Championship game, still won their division, but they've got a lot tougher road to go this year in the AFC and in their division. Baltimore looks legit, although they've only played Houston and a wounded Cincinnati team. And then Pittsburgh, their defense is awesome, but their offense hasn't caught on yet. Cleveland kind of the same way. Defense is good. Offense hasn't caught up yet. But, they got a tough division. Baltimore looked pretty good in this game. Odell Beckham Jr., though, got hurt again with an ankle, I believe it is. Any thoughts on this game, Chris?
Yeah. The Bengals are in trouble. Not trouble, but they're in trouble right now. Because if Joe Burrow misses a couple weeks and they go 0-4, I still think they could sneak themselves back in the wild card once he comes back and healthy. But how long is he going to miss? Is he going to play next week? Can he play next week? What happens if Joe Burrow misses 3 to 4 weeks per se? Can they still make the wild card? Because I'm kind of thinking right now that they might not have a chance by the time he comes back for the division if Baltimore keeps playing good.
Yeah, if he
misses, I'm not a fan of Jackson, but if Jackson stays healthy, he knows how to win games. And they're showing that they can win games. You know what I mean?
If Burrow misses 4 weeks, Cincinnati doesn't make the playoffs because, you got just too tough of a conference in the AFC. Now, I know the Jets are probably weakened now without Aaron Rodgers, but you have other teams that have not started out well that will start doing better as the season goes on because they have their quarterback. But if they got no quarterback in Cincinnati and he's got to miss the next 4 weeks, they do not have an easy schedule. And it will not be good for Cincinnati going forward.
No. So they're really in struggle, and it sucks, to see them go way back. But Baltimore's going the right direction. And they got the dub. They're 2-0. Kind of sucks Beckham Jr.'s hurt again, but hopefully he don't miss a long time. I'm hoping to see some production out of him, see if he still got it. But other than that was a pretty good game from what I tuned in to. We already talked the Seattle Lions game, so we can go right to the Colts.
In the Indianapolis Colt game versus Houston Texans, C.J. Stroud looked pretty good for the most part. They could not run the football against a really good Colts front seven. Anthony Richardson got 2 rushing touchdowns again at quarterback for the Colts. But on the second one, as he was being tackled going into the end zone, he banged his head into the end zone and got a concussion and missed the rest of the game. So Gardner Minshew had to come in and fill in the rest of the game and, maintain that status quo as Houston was starting to make a comeback. And, Anthony Richardson will have to pass the concussion protocol in order to be able to start this next week. But I feel confident in the Colts if they start, Gardner Minshew, for a little bit of time, if they have to. He knows the system because the head coach is the former offensive coordinator for the Philadelphia Eagles. Minshew was the backup behind Hurts last year in Philly. And so, and Zach Moss is starting to come on at the running back spot. I know that it looks like maybe they're missing Jonathan Taylor just a little bit. And I called on Facebook for Minnesota to trade for Jonathan Taylor because they need a real frontline running back in their backfield. And they, if the Colts are happy with Moss, and of course they don't want to pay Jonathan Taylor, the Minnesota might be a good spot for him. But what do you think about Colts Texans?
I didn't get to watch much of this game because, of course, it was on at the same time the Lions game, and the Lions game was so crazy that I really didn't channel surf too much during the Lions game because I was glued. But I did watch the highlights that came through. Richardson looked like he had a good start of the game. I hope he can come back next week. I hope he don't have to sit a week with a concussion. I actually want to be able to sit back. Hopefully next week I'll be able to actually tune in if he does play and get to see him actually play, but not a bad start for Richardson. I think for a rookie QB, he's doing better than most. Houston, it was good to see Houston almost come back, score some points, because I know week one, a lot of people were on CJ Stroud because, he's kind of like the Justin Fields. He got the Ohio State on his back, So a lot of people pay attention to that because, Ohio State still hasn't had a real true QB come out of their school and do good in NFL. So I'm kind of glad to see him actually make some positive plays and get his feet wet because I know week one wasn't that good for him. But other than that,
if you're watching the broadcast and you want to bring up something, be sure to comment and we'll sure talk about it. Let's move on to the next game. We got the Chicago Bears and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Buccaneers win the game 27-17, and Baker Mayfield is doing a good job pretending to be Tom Brady.
Let's give him his props. Baker, staying in the NFL, keeping his career alive.
Yeah. And the Bears have weapons. It just doesn't feel like they're utilizing it. Justin Fields again turning the ball over, missing wide open receivers. The defense couldn't hold back the running game of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Rashid White had a nice day for them. I just look at I'm surprised Tampa is 2-0. And to be honest, I'm surprised Chicago's 0-2. I really thought, and maybe it's just early in the season, and they're working out some kinks. He does have some new receivers that he's got to work with. They've got some new offensive linemen, but it just feels like that the offense is being held back by the quarterback. And if he would throw to the right guys at the proper time and not look to take off and run so often, then, they'll be able to keep the chains moving and not expose a defense that needs more time to gel.
Yeah. Now, don't shoot the messenger. I said this in the offseason about the Bears. I said this about Justin Fields a million times. I don't think he's an NFL quarterback. But I'm not going to put the blame on him 100% either. Because reality is kicking in on both sides of the ball in Chicago. Not only did their GM pay a lot of money for that defense that has not showed up in 2 weeks. So at this point, what this is telling me, their defense hasn't even really looked good. And that's the most side they paid this year in money-wise. Same thing with DJ Moore coming over, the wideout core. Nothing's looked good in Chicago. And now I believe it could be Fields. I sat there and watched the replay of him standing there and a guy and a receiver basically doing jumping jacks in the end zone with nobody around him. He's looking right at him and gets sacked on the same damn play. Now, here's the real question. Is Justin Fields just a bust and not going to be able to be an NFL quarterback? Or is it time to fire your coaches and GM in Chicago and get a GM that actually knows football and get a real coaching staff in there at this point? I don't know.
I just think that the game plans for the offensive coordinator, either Justin Fields is not following the game plan like they had hoped, or the play calling is not, doing what it needs to do to protect the quarterback from himself. They throw these young quarterbacks out there from time to time, and some of them are just not ready. They get sacked a lot because he doesn't have a good offensive line. He's forcing the ball because the team is behind, or he has a lot of pressure on him. I don't feel like that they ran the ball enough. They didn't get the ball to their tight ends and their backs out of the backfield. There was instead of doing some nice, easy check downs, he's looking for the home run ball. And, this isn't college football. It's okay to take a shot every once in a while when the other team isn't expecting it. But when they're looking for you to do it pretty often, you're not going to surprise them.
Yeah. Now, Tampa, I can't say nothing bad about Tampa. I'm proud of Baker. I like comeback stories. I am glad to see him succeeding, getting 2 W's. He back to playing like he was in college. I have nothing but support for Baker right now. I want to see if he can actually become the franchise QB of the Bucs and stay in the league and put some positive years instead of, instead of seeing him struggle in Cleveland. I mean, it's good to see him actually somewhere where the coaches are trusting him to sling the ball, run the ball, and play.
I agree.
So I'm very excited to see where Baker goes from here. I can't wait to see what he does in week 3. We got some comments from Josh Dobb.
Yeah.
Fields is awful. Coaching is awful. Defense is awful. Dumpster fire. He had like 2 design runs. What a waste of talent he does have.
As a Lions fan, that's music to your ears there, you want Chicago to be a dumpster fire.
I mean, yes and no, because as a fan of football, as a fan of Detroit, okay, for this year, is it comforting that I do have confidence that we could beat the Bears twice? I believe we could beat the Packers twice. I even right now believe we could beat Minnesota twice with how they've played the last 2 weeks. Not saying that they're not, we don't play Minnesota on a weird ass schedule 2 of the last 3 games. We play you a week, we play somebody else, and we play you again last week of the season. So I don't know what Minnesota's going to look at the end of the season. They might have cleaned their shit up by then. I don't know. But I am confident that the Lions should be able to beat the Bears not once but twice. I do believe we can beat the Packers at least once out of the 2 meetings. But I do think we could sweep them. Just not saying it's going to happen because the Packers are a different team than the Bears. But at the same time, if you take me as a whole round football fan, our division was called black and blue for a damn reason for a lot of years. Because it didn't matter who you played in the division. You're going to have to play your ass off just to get a W, regardless if they sucked or were a good team. We haven't had a division like that in years. And don't get me wrong, my team is very responsible. Reasons why we haven't had a division like that in years.
Right.
But Chicago, it's the same thing. And I see the same thing happen all the years in Detroit in the past happening right now in Chicago. So it's like, in a weird way, I feel for the fans over there because my team used to make dumb mistakes like that all the time. Keep the GM, go through 6 coaches, but the same GM's still here. Nothing changes because if you're not firing no one at the top that has total control of the team, you ain't getting no changes. You can put any coach you want, but if the front office ain't working with the coach on building the team to set yourself up for success, you're never going to change. And there's some real questions in Chicago right now.
Moving on, we've got the Kansas City Chiefs rebounded after the opening week loss to Detroit. They go down to Jacksonville, and this was a playoff rematch other than they're playing in Jacksonville this time. And I got to be honest, Chris, the Kansas City Chiefs on defense have allowed only 23 points to 2 of the top 10 offenses in the NFL. Their defense has looked outstanding. In the first week, they didn't have Chris Jones. This week, they did have Chris Jones, and he was a factor. Now, the offense is still trying to find itself with all these new receivers. They did get Travis Kelce back, and he helped them score a touchdown. Sky Moore got a touchdown, and they kicked a field goal in the game. But Patrick Mahomes ran around, did his magic man, stuff, and did what he had to do to secure the victory late in the game. Trevor Lawrence And their offense for Jacksonville just couldn't get on track. It didn't feel like they ran the ball enough against the Chiefs, because when they did run, the Chiefs were all over it.
Yep.
I didn't see enough screen passes from Jacksonville. I didn't see any bubble screens from Jacksonville. I just didn't think that they had a very good game plan for the kind of speed on defense that the Chiefs now possess. You know, they're going into the second year with all of these secondary guys who, you know, were either rookies or second-year players. And they're really coming into their own. I'm surprised how well the Chiefs defense is playing, and they're going to have reinforcements coming here in a few weeks when they get pass rusher Charles Omenihu back from suspension.
Yeah. Case, see, that's one thing I said to a lot of people. I didn't buy the hype that the Lions were going to be able to run the ball all over you in week 1, because I already thought your defense was going to be pretty good, even without Chris Jones. And guess what? If you go back to week 1, there wasn't much of a difference than the week 2. The only thing you've seen different in week 2 was Chris Jones making plays because he's back. But other than that, your defense did not struggle against the Lions. You guys made us work for every damn yard, every damn point we got in week 1. Your defense is one of the reasons why you guys stayed in the game. And it was only a 1-point game. I thought your defense would make it hard on Jacksonville. And once again, if you look at that score, 17-9, that tells me they struggled against your defense. Now, KC, the weakest part on KC right now, and I'm just going to say, is the offense. And that's only because you got a brand new wide receiver course. Mahomes has to get confidence in every single receiver. The only true confident receiver he has on that team right now is actually 2. I'll give it 2, because it seems like he is pretty confident in Sky Moore and Travis Kelce. But I expect by midway of the season, he should have confidence in the rest of them receivers, and that offense should come alive. But right now, your defense is so good, it's going to give you a chance, even if they are struggling on offense a little bit. Your defense is that good enough that's going to keep you in almost every game you play. So I don't see much off. It's just that wide receiver. The biggest thing for KC in my eyes is that wide receiver core. Jacksonville's another young team. They got a long road. I still think they'll be fine. They're going to go to the playoffs. They're still a tough team.
I was super disappointed in the Green Bay Packers going on the road to the Atlanta Falcons. The Packers led the game 24-12, and Atlanta came back. Desmond Ridder has played very well as the quarterback this year for Atlanta. Of course, they've got the running attack with Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algiers. They're spreading the ball around offensively, but I just felt like Green Bay did not run the ball and secure the victory. They kept trying to pass, when they should have been running the ball in the fourth quarter to take the time off the clock, kick a field goal, extend the lead, and it just suddenly disappeared. Jordan Love played just fine, okay? I thought he played just fine. They did enough to win the game, but they allowed Atlanta to come back and score 13 unanswered points in the fourth quarter to take and steal the game from them.
Yeah, and that's what happens when you're missing your best running back. They just didn't trust that running game to get the job done, so they try to force throwing the ball down the field. And you know what I mean? And they kept trying to do that, and it cost them. Now, Atlanta, we had before the season a sneaky team that could make some noise. And right now they're 2-0.
It's funny, we got Tampa, New Orleans, and Atlanta in the NFC South are all 2-0. And some of these other big-time teams in the other divisions either don't have a win or are 1-1.
And we all said that was going to be probably the worst division in the NFC too. And right now we're eating crow, buddy. Because we had the Saints winning this division, hands down predictions.
Well, that could still happen.
Well, that could still happen.
New Orleans is still working on who they are, and we'll get to their game here in a little bit. Let's go ahead and move on to Buffalo and the Raiders. The Raiders eked out a 1-point win in week 1 against lowly Denver, but they went up to Buffalo and got taken apart. Josh Allen didn't turn the ball over. They threw the ball down the field at will. Garoppolo turned the ball over at least one time. They couldn't run the football. Josh Jacobs is the first rushing champion that in the year following being the rushing champion finished a game with negative yards in a game.
Wow. I didn't see none of this game. I didn't even know it was a blowout. I mean, I expected Buffalo to show up. I expected Josh Allen to get shit figured out. And that's what happened. They came out there and played. Josh Allen, like you said, didn't do no turnovers and got the dub. And Oakland, I still think they're going to make noise. I think they had the ability to be a decent team this year. But when you're playing bigger teams, you got to figure a way to be more competitive. But that defense has showed out.
Yeah, the Raiders, they don't have the defense that the Jets have.
No, that's what I'm saying.
And so, Buffalo had their way with them, and it was an easy day. I think the Raiders are exactly what we thought they were going to be. They're going to be the fourth-place team in that division. Yes, they got the win against Denver, but it's early in the season. Denver's got a new coach, new system there for Russell Wilson. We'll get to their game here in a minute. We'll skip on now to Tennessee versus the Chargers. Chargers are putting up plenty of points. Defense can't stop anybody, even the Tennessee Titans. Tennessee's playing at home. Derrick Henry's running at will. Tannehill's throwing it down the field with ease in a game that I thought the Chargers should win easily because Tennessee is basically a ground and pound offense. They open up the offense against the Chargers because the Chargers can't stop anybody through the air. Can't stop anybody on the ground. The Chargers, in my mind, because Herbert's not hurt, and I know they didn't have Austin Eckler, but for the most part, they're fully assembled. The Chargers are the most disappointing team in the NFL through 2 weeks for my money, Chris.
I can't disagree with you more. I thought this was going to be an easy win. I lost this one in pick'ems for sure. I didn't see Tennessee pulling this one out by any means at all.
Moving on to the San Francisco 49ers, and we talked about this one earlier, the Los Angeles Rams, they gave them all they had. The Rams have the number 2 offense in the NFL right now. Stafford is healthy, and despite not having Cooper Kupp, they've got Tutu Atwell, who was drafted higher. They got Kieran Williams running the ball. He's a youngster. And then they've got, I'm going to see if I can get this right. It's Puka Kanua. Okay. I think that's it. Okay. It's Puka Kanua is the wide receiver, that is leading the team right now in the absence of Cooper Kupp. But the 49ers, their defense, they played them tough, and the offense is still doing what they do. They do not turn the ball over. They run the football to kill the clock, and they use a lot of formations and different players, to get people open. Running the ball with Debo, throwing the ball to McCaffrey, going down the field to Ayuk, using Kittle as a blocker, and then, throwing it to him on a screen where he looked like he was going to be just a blocker. The 49ers got a tricky offense to go with that defense. They played well. They won the game. I expected them to win the game, but as the game got closer, I started to wonder, whether or not the Rams could come back and actually win this game. And it's going to be a tough division. The NFC West is going to be super tough, like I thought it would be, with the exception of Arizona.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that. I mean, everybody thought, even myself a little bit, thought the Rams were going to take a step back, and that has been the case. And I should have known better. Stafford's played with the Lions for 12 years before he went to the Rams, and he's won a lot of games that he was not supposed to win. As long as he's healthy, he can sling that ball. The Rams have a chance to win any game they play. I always thought Stafford was that quarterback, but San Francisco is once again shown with Brock Purdy that he is the real deal. And when he's playing healthy and on all cylinders, this team offensively, running, catching, passing, and defensively, showing that they're still the team they were last year before that injury hit them, stopped them in their tracks last season.
In my power rankings, I have San Francisco as the number one team in the NFL right now.
I couldn't agree more.
Followed by Philadelphia, and then after them, Dallas, who we'll talk about here in a minute. But I was stunned. I turned it over, and the Arizona Cardinals lead the New York Giants 20-0. And I'm like, what the hell's going on here? This is a team that, we all talked about, they're tanking. They're starting Joshua Dobbs at quarterback. They traded away one of their best players in Isaiah Simmons to the Giants, but somehow, some way, the Giants managed to come back and win the game. And I guess it's the first time the Giants have come back from a 20-point deficit since like 1949. Okay, which is crazy to me that it hasn't since then. But on the last drive to secure the field goal to win the game, Saquon Barkley got hurt. He's hurt his ankle. They've said on Facebook, they said on ESPN, it's a 3-week injury. And now Brian Daboll comes out today and says that Saquon Barkley is feeling much better and that he's not going to rule him out of playing on the Thursday night game against the 49ers. I think this is complete posturing on his part. There is no way on God's green earth, as Mike Golick would say, that Saquon Barkley plays in the Thursday night football game against the 49ers.
So you're telling me
it's on the road against the San Francisco 49ers. He's injured. He is an important part of their team. They can give him 10 or 11 days off, okay, plus the beginning of this week. They give him 10 days off where he can, rest up and hopefully be able to come back the next week. There's no reason to throw him out there against a team they are completely outmatched against, in my opinion.
Well, see, here's the thing, though. You gotta look at their minds. You gotta look at Daboll's mind too. He made the playoffs last year. He's not trying to miss the playoffs this year. And that 49ers could be a big W if he has a full team and can pull the offset off. which I don't know if they could do, and I'm not going to say that myself. But as a head coach, you got to see where he's coming from. And I don't think Barkley plays, and I don't think Barkley practices all week. But I will say, if Thursday rolls around and he's not in pain and they feel safe, I wouldn't put it past me that they don't let him play.
Dude, lock of the week, 49ers over Giants. Bet the money now.
I'm not betting no money on that. I'm too. I love my money too much to make too risky bets.
You think that's a risky bet?
Oh, you said pick the 49ers over the Giants.
Yeah, pick the 49ers.
My man, I thought you said pick the Giants. I thought the other way around. Okay, yeah, for sure. I would take that bet.
Yeah. Dallas Cowboys showed their defense is for real for the second week in a row. And the Jets showed that Zach Wilson is not Aaron Rodgers. 30-10 the final. The Cowboys' new play calling under Mike McCarthy: run the football, wind the clock down, make nice, precise passes, with Dak Prescott. Prescott hasn't turned the ball over. They're running the ball well. The defense is playing lights out. That's why I have Dallas as the number 3 best team in the NFL right now on the strength of their defense and running game. But Dak Prescott has looked pretty good getting the ball down the field to CeeDee Lamb. And, I like what they're doing so far. I know it's just the first 2 weeks of the season, but Dallas are the king of New York. They're the king of New York. I don't know if they play Buffalo this year, but if they did, Buffalo would be in big trouble.
I will say this for Dallas. This is probably the best I've seen Dak look since he's been in one of the best seasons I've seen him play.
Hi, Tanner.
And they're making great plays. They're playing good football. We'll see how long this road lasts. Mike McCarthy might be the guy that needs to be calling the plays, because since he's been calling the plays, they haven't lost a game.
We have cupcakes.
Yeah, you guys can do everything. You guys do everything, and I'll be out there in a little bit. Okay, moving on here. We got the Washington Commanders against the Denver Broncos. And I tell you, Russell Wilson looks so much better than he did last year. But this game right here is all about what the Washington Commanders were able to do. Eric Bieniemy's offense, former offensive coordinator for the Kansas City Chiefs, has taken a ragtag bunch of guys. Brian Robinson running the football, Sam Howell at quarterback. He's got Dotson and McLaren at wide receiver. They put up 35 points against a really good Denver defense. Denver had no answer for them in the second half. And despite the Hail Mary, which was really exciting by Russell Wilson at the end of the game, they had an opportunity to tie it with the 2-point conversion, which was a terrible play call at the end of the game. They got the Hail Mary and nearly come back, to tie it and send it to overtime. But Washington, I know they only beat Arizona. I know they're only beating Denver, who was not a good team last year. Denver got 33. Okay. So, they're putting up enough points in this particular game that they should have won. But it's all about the defense not being able to stop Washington's offense.
Can you say we can have both of each, one of each?
You can have. Go ahead and talk, Chris. I got to deal with a kid.
Oh, you're good. Yeah, this game right here, mind you, this game right here, Washington and the Broncos, the rumor has it that after this game, probably by next year, Russell Wilson is not going to be with the Broncos anymore.
Tell her I say
There's a lot of rumors going around right now with Sean Payton that some of his latest comments show a divorce is coming between him and Russell Wilson. It's already getting frustrated on week 2. I expected the Broncos to bounce back and have a pretty good year. They go to lose week 1 against the Raiders, a team that I thought they should be able to beat in week 1. They come against Washington, another team they should be able to beat at home, and they lose. Now, don't get me wrong, Washington was pretty good at the end of last year. They started out slow last week, which they almost lost to the Cardinals. So I was really kind of questioning on how good they were going to be. But they were able to go on the road with Sam Howell and play out there in Denver and get the W in Denver. And the Broncos, it's going to be a long year for Broncos country. It don't look like they're going to be riding anytime soon.
Yeah, I just think that, Denver is taking a while because everything that went wrong last year, they're having to unlearn. Okay. Russell Wilson looked just fine throughout the majority of the game. The defense was the strength of the team last year. They got a new defensive coordinator. Vance Joseph comes back to Denver after he used to be the head coach several years ago. And, I was expecting the defense to, continue to be on par with what it was last year. And if it was, Denver would be 2-0 right now. But they're struggling to put it all together. A lot of people are talking about, Sean Payton and Russell Wilson are going to split from each other. I've read that too. I've heard about it on the radio and the different chat lines and things. It's only week 2. Okay. It's going to take a little bit of time for this team to come around. Right now, the sky is falling in Denver, but in 3 or 4 weeks, if they picked up a couple of tough victories, perhaps against Kansas City, okay, I think that they've got a chance to beat Kansas City this year because I know the way that Sean Payton's teams, and granted, it was New Orleans in the past, I know the way that he calls the game, the kind of game plans that he can put together. They got some things they need to shore up on both sides of the ball. I don't think that there should be any overreaction to losing to Washington. Okay. I think Washington's going to be a pretty good team this year. We talked about it earlier on, when we were making our predictions for the season. And I said that I thought Washington was going to be at least like a 9-8 team, and that the NFC East was going to be really strong this year. And so, I know it's early in the year, both teams have new offenses. Washington's team didn't have to unlearn the things that were bad last year because you got a brand new starting quarterback in Sam Howell.
Yeah.
Okay? Their defense is decent. I just think that, and I'm not making excuses for Denver, but I expect them to get things turned around in the next couple of weeks. I'm calling it early. I'm telling you, when they get things turned around, they got a real shot to beat Kansas City this year, and they haven't beaten Kansas City in like 10 years.
I would like to see them get to that point, but right now, I don't know what's going to happen. We'll find out.
Sunday night football, the Miami Dolphins went into New England, and, New England had a good game plan. Run the football, keep the Miami offense off the field, limit their possessions, take Tyreek Hill out of the game with a lot of different coverages. And, it looked like that if they continued to do what they started the game doing, that it was going to work out for them. But eventually, Mostert in that running game kind of took over they scored a big touchdown running the football, and that opened up the passing game. And the next thing you knew, Miami had a good lead. And New England tried to come back. I think that Mac Jones just doesn't have enough weapons. I think that the signing of Ezekiel Elliott as the backup to Ramondre Stevenson running the ball in New England was a huge mistake. Zeke cannot run the football, and so you're limited with what you can do, running the ball. You've got to, they gave away Pierre Strong before the season to Cleveland, and they did not re-sign Damian Harris. He ended up with Buffalo, and they have not paid it. They had an opportunity, and I think this could still happen because he's out there on the market. They had an opportunity to bring in Leonard Fournette, and they have not done that yet. They paid a lot of money. It's like $6 million to Zeke, and he just doesn't have it. Whether the offensive line is incapable of blocking for him or he's a step slow and they catch him, there are no big plays coming out of him running the football. I would save him for goal line stands, trying to punch it into the end zone, and use Ramondre Stevenson the rest of the time, between the tens. But they got to get the ball out. Devontae Parker is basically the number one receiver. They have gone to Hunter Henry a lot, the tight end, but Juju Smith-Schuster is invisible in this New England offense when he was the number one guy for Kansas City last year.
I know, that's the craziest thing to me is that's the craziest thing to me that he still hasn't shown up at all.
I think he got one catch in the game against Miami, and it was for like 6 yards.
Yeah, it's just beyond crazy to me that he's been this quiet in 2 weeks. I expected him to be the go-to guy.
Josh Dodd or Jason Linton, our New England guys, had to say about what's going on offensively there. Because, Bill O'Brien's a good offensive coordinator, but once again, they just don't have any weapons. Yeah. Or they're not designing or preparing, plays for specific players to get them open and, make some big plays.
Totally agree. And Zeke is not helping them by any means. I don't know what it is, man, why he can't run the ball anymore. The dude used to be one of the best backs in the league. And the last few years, he's just been MIA.
So, New Orleans goes into Carolina on Monday Night Football. They were patient. They did a lot of checkdowns against a really good Carolina defense. And, they managed to come away with the victory. I think that Derek Carr is still getting his legs underneath him in this new offense. They are definitely missing Alvin Kamara running the ball. Jamal Williams got hurt in the game, so they went to Tony Jones, and he actually scored a couple of touchdowns in the game. But he's got an array of really good receivers. And he got the ball to slant boy Michael Thomas a lot last night, but not nearly enough to Chris Olave, who I think is their big play guy. For Carolina, very porous offensive line. I felt like Bryce Young was running for his life a lot throughout the game. He had to take off and run to get some first downs because guys couldn't get open. He tried to get the ball as much as he could to his most reliable targets, who were, Adam Thielen, who did score a touchdown in the game, and Hayden Hurst, the tight end. But they had a hard time running the ball against that defensive front for New Orleans. And I think that that's going to continue, throughout the year, as it's just going to be a learning year, a learning process for Young and this team. As far as the other Monday Night Football game goes, Kenny Pickett has struggled right now. The defense won that game last night. Cleveland, you see glimpses from Deshaun Watson of what he used to be. He just hasn't put it all together yet. And but now that they're missing Chubb, I think if they bring in Kareem Hunt, they'll be fine, because I liked what I saw out of Ford last night.
Yeah, Ford didn't
It
look
was a
bad for him at
typical
all.
AFC North bruising style game between Pittsburgh and Cleveland on Monday night.
Yeah, Ford didn't look bad at all. And I want to bring this up since we got a little bit of time since we went through all the other teams. The local radio talk was just talking about Deshaun Watson, and they made some solid points. They said they brought up before all that stuff happened in Houston, before he takes the season off. They said Houston used to have one of the best looking deep balls in the league. He takes a year off. The first year, like they said, the first couple weeks he played, they knew he was going to be rusty. They expected him by the end of the season to see that arm again and see those throws. That never happened. Here we are this year. He's not playing horribly, but he still hasn't been able to showcase those throws yet, that arm. And like they brought up, it's really showing how taking a year off for a player can change a player.
Yeah.
Even the best of players. And
yeah, I mean, they get rusty. Of course, I mean, it's a different offense than what he was accustomed to. It's a different environment than what he's accustomed to. He used to playing in a dome. Now he's playing outside. And so you've got a couple different things there. He still has a defense that he can rely on. He used to have J.J. Watt and Whitney Merciless and them with Houston. Now he's got Myles Garrett and, the group there. But he's playing in a lot tougher division, in Cleveland. Houston was playing against, Indianapolis. Now, granted, they had Andrew Luck. Jacksonville was dead in the water most of the time, and then Tennessee, which, if you stop the running game with Tennessee back in that time, you didn't have to worry about them, And so now you've got teams that are built to throw the ball down the field, to smash you in the mouth running the football. And, they turn games into bloodbaths in the AFC North. They're the black and blue division now.
this year for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, after you see Nick Chubb, you can't disagree with that.
All right, so let's go to our week 3 preview now. We could take a look at the games that are coming up this week. We've already talked about the Giants and the 49ers. Let's go down the line here. The Indianapolis Colts and the Baltimore Ravens. I don't think that Indianapolis has a chance to win this game unless Anthony Richardson plays. I have a lot of faith in Gardner Minshew, but I don't think they're going to be able to run the ball against the Ravens defense. And I think that Baltimore playing at home is going to open it up. And, Lamar Jackson is a lot better than C.J. Stroud.
I agree with that. I think the Ravens pull this one out regardless if Richardson plays or not. But I'm hoping Richardson comes in, and if he does play, I wouldn't mind seeing an upset right here. By any means.
I'm calling up DraftKings so I can get the line right now real quick. While I'm doing that, we'll move on real quick to Tennessee versus Cleveland. It's interesting. These teams feel like they mirror each other because they're built on the running game. They have the ability to throw the ball. I think I trust Deshaun Watson more than I do Ryan Tannehill. But both defenses are pretty tough. Tennessee played very tough against the New Orleans Saints in week 1. And then, of course, they played against the Chargers and held the Chargers' high-powered offense to only 24 points in week number 2. Tannehill played poorly in week 1, played good in week 2. You don't know what you're going to get. It's kind of a Jekyll and Hyde situation for him. And so for me, I think I'm going to take the Cleveland Browns in that game.
I'm going to take the Cleveland Browns myself in this game, but I'm also going to leave it back in my mind if Deshaun Watson doesn't have don't play at the top tier level this week, that there is a chance Tennessee might sneak in and steal one again. But especially if they get Hunt signed and they got him, I think Cleveland will be able to run the ball. So that's going to help wear that defense down throughout the game. So my money would be on Cleveland.
Finally got the DraftKings lines and everything up. Baltimore is a 7.5-point favorite against the Indianapolis Colts. I think that might be too much, no matter who plays quarterback. I would take the line in that. The over-under is 44.5, which feels about right to me. What do you think about that?
I 7 is steep if Richardson plays, but then again, with Baltimore and the experience and how they've played the last 2 weeks, I still think they could have over 7, but that'd be a game I probably would stay away from. If I bet on it, I would probably bet straight up or a parlay maybe.
Yeah. For Tennessee versus Cleveland, they've got Cleveland favored by 3 at home. I agree with that. I think I would take the points on that one. The over-under for that one is 39.5, and I feel like it's going to be a low-scoring game. So, maybe 27-10.
Yep.
If Cleveland could come out and do that.
I think as long as Deshaun Watson comes out and plays better than he did last week, they for sure have a chance to do that.
The Atlanta Falcons at the Detroit Lions. Now, the Falcons are 2-0 at Detroit. Let's see what the line is for that game. They have Detroit at home, only favored by 3. I just think after looking at Green Bay play at Atlanta, they were able to throw the ball down the field in the first half, and play very well against Atlanta. I think the Lions have a better passing attack than Green Bay. Plus, I like their running game. I think this is an easy win here for the Lions. I don't think that Atlanta on the road at Detroit is going to put up too awful big a fight. I think it'll be a good game in the first half. Detroit pulls away in the second.
I agree with that. I would take the Lions and the points.
You got the 2-0 Saints at the 1-1 Green Bay Packers. This is a game that I would stay away from no matter what. I like the Saints. We've talked about them winning the division all offseason. They've started the year okay at 2-0, but both games have been closer than I would have liked. I think Green Bay's got a really good offense. I don't know if Aaron Jones is going to be back to play. A.J. Dillon was all right running the football, but they're playing at Lambeau. If I had to pick one, I'd take the money line for the Packers. They have the Packers as 2-point favorites, which is about what I'm thinking. I would take the money line for Green Bay in this game. 43 points is the over-under. I don't know if they'll put up that many points. I think that with New Orleans' defense being really good, Packers' defense played well in the first half against Atlanta, but they just couldn't stop them in the second half. It felt like they got gassed.
Yeah. Time out. Which game were you talking about?
New Orleans versus the Packers.
I mean, Green Bay's at home. They usually do pretty good at home, but I think the Saints pull this one out. I just think they got the better
Houston
defense.
Texans and the Jacksonville Jaguars. And I'm looking here. It looks like they've got Jacksonville as a 9.5-point favorite. I would be a little concerned, after watching Jacksonville play against Kansas City, or, only putting up 9 points against the Chiefs. We talk about the Chiefs defense being really good, but is it just an aberration? We don't know because it's only been 2 weeks into the season. If that's just an aberration. Is the Jaguars struggling on offense? They had a rough time in the first half against the Colts in week 1. Houston's put up 20 points, in each of the 2 games that they've played. I'm going to take Jacksonville, but I think I'd take the money line in this instance.
I don't blame you there. This is a game I believe for Jacksonville should be able to bounce back, and maybe if they could find their offense and get on the same page, this could be the game they actually need it to maybe get that final gelling and get going to full speed. But they for sure should win this game. I don't expect them to lose this game.
Here's a game that, in my opinion, is really a big mismatch. You Denver 0-2 going to the Miami Dolphins. The way Denver's defense played last week, I don't know how they're going to slow down the Miami Dolphins in Miami. I think that Broncos go to 0-3. The Dolphins are 6.5-point favorites. I think I'd take the points in the Dolphins. I think they're going to win at least 7 points in the game in week 3.
I would agree. I would be confident in that bet all day.
Here's a crazy game. Minnesota Vikings, have been able to put up points offensively, but can't seem to win the games. Okay. And the Chargers put up tons of points and can't stop anybody. So the Chargers go on the road to the Vikings. Let's take a look at what the line is on that one. They've got it almost as a pick'em game. 1-point favorites for the Vikings. It really isn't worth it to take them either with the points or the money line. This is one of those where I would just, make a parlay and try to select some players that I think are going to score.
Agreed.
Justin Jefferson hasn't been in the end zone yet after 2 weeks. They're going to make that a focal point to get him in the end zone. For the Chargers, they've got 3 really good wide receivers in Allen, Williams, and Johnston. You just got to decide which ones you think are going to get it in the end zone. We don't know if Austin Eckler is going to play. Joshua Kelly would be the starter. If he doesn't, I wouldn't bet on Alexander Madison to do anything but fumble the football for the Vikings. But, as a Viking fan and them playing at home, I want to see the Vikings win. And that could spell doom early on in the season, as I think Brandon Staley is already on the hot seat.
Yeah. I almost want to say the Chargers pull this one out, but I'm not going to completely rule out Minnesota, because if Minnesota can not turn the ball over and stay in the game, get Jefferson in the end zone, then they could possibly win this game. But if they play like they did the last 2 weeks, turning the ball over, Chargers might get the little break and get their first W of the season. I expect both teams to come out hard, though, because one thing in this league you can't do if you want to make the playoffs is start 0-3.
The next 2 games are going to be super tough to pick. You got the Jets and the really good defense playing at home. against the Patriots. It's a division matchup. They know each other so well. And I guess it just depends on, will Zach Wilson not turn the ball over? And can the Jets run the ball down the throat of the New England Patriots? I think that this is a prime example. We'll see whether the New England Patriots are going to be any good this year or not. I think that they should win this game because they're a team that's fully assembled, whereas the Jets were not planning to have Zach Wilson be the starter this year. If Aaron Rodgers was playing in this game, I would clearly say the Jets were going to win. But I have my doubts about Wilson. I know that Aaron Rodgers was in his ear the whole preseason, and maybe this can be a breakout game for him. But Belichick's defense always confuses the younger quarterbacks that don't have enough experience or that tend to make mistakes. They draw them into those mistakes and they win the game. And so the line on the Patriots-Jets game is the Patriots are favored by 3. What do you think, Chris?
That's a tough one because that's going to be a defensive. That's going to be a defensive battle right there. I think on both sides of the ball. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. This is tough. This game in particular is so tough. I don't even know who I could pick as a winner. I want to favor the Jets, but then I can't. But it'd be weird to see Belichick start 0-3.
I just think that the Patriots win this game. I think the reason that they win is on the strength of, the Jets' offensive line is porous. Matthew Judon and the guys up front for New England are going to feast.
You know what? Now thinking about it, you're right, because if they were good, Rodgers would still be playing.
Yeah. Buffalo Bills versus the surprising Washington Commanders. And, the Commanders, they played a tight game against Arizona in the first week. And, they didn't have to put up a whole lot of points to win that one. They had to put up a lot of points against what we thought was a good defense for Denver. Buffalo's got a stout running game, and if they get the lead on you, it's like it's like a stone rolling downhill. It's hard to stop. And so, I think this will be an interesting game. I think it'll be a lot of fun to watch this one. I'm looking forward to seeing it if I can. If Sam Howell doesn't make mistakes, I think Washington could win this game.
If Washington plays Washington football, and when I mean Washington football, this team has, to me, my whole life, I always thought they had Washington has been special in one way. Because it don't matter if they're a good team or a bad team. They've always found ways to sneak out W's over the years. And to me, they're dangerous in that. So I'm expecting Buffalo to come out like they did last week. And if that happens, I think they easily cruise and win this game. But if they struggle on offense this week, let Washington stick around in this game. I can't disagree with that Washington could pull upset. Now, I'm not going to say Washington's not going to come out and keep pace either, because it's very possible because they're just that team. This one's going to be exciting, but I'm going to say right now Buffalo wins this.
I take Buffalo, but there's no way I'm giving them 6.5 points. I just don't trust, Eric Bieniemy, offensive coordinator for the Commanders, comes from Kansas City, and Kansas City always knew how to attack the Buffalo Bill defense. They've done it in multiple different ways over the last few years. I remember a rain-soaked game in Buffalo. Kansas City ran the ball down their throat. The next time they played, they passed it all over the field. and the Commanders have the ability, I think, to do either. And it's just a matter of, will the Commanders defense come to play? Okay. But I don't trust them because I haven't seen enough of them. I'll take Buffalo, but it's going to be on the money line.
So,
Our next game is the Seattle Seahawks hosting the Carolina Panthers. I think that Seattle is clearly the better team here. Carolina goes on the road all the way to the West Coast. And you got Seattle favored by 6. I'd be stunned if they didn't win by more than that.
I'm taking Seattle and I don't care about the points. I'm taking Seattle to cover. They're going to feast.
Yeah, I think there's going to be quite a few blowouts this week, just based on the matchups that are at hand. Unless we have been fooled completely through the first 2 weeks of the year, okay, I think Seattle takes care of business, no problem with Carolina, and Dallas does the same thing to Arizona in their matchup.
And guess what? I can even end the KC and Bears because KC's going to feast against the Bears.
Yeah, well, Dallas is a 12-point favorite against Arizona. They won their first game 40-0. They won the second game 30-10. I just think that their defense overwhelms these teams. Now, Arizona's got some new offensive linemen, but they do not have a quarterback who is an elite quarterback. I don't think that their defense, obviously, the Giants were able to come back against them, and put up the points that they needed to come back. I just think, like I said, I think Dallas wins this game easily. And then, like you said, we move on to Bears at the Chiefs. The Chiefs defense will get Justin Fields to turn the ball over. They're playing at Arrowhead. The Chiefs are favored to win the game by 12.5. That's the biggest spread. But the Chiefs have, and we've talked about it before, the hardest time covering the spread.
Yeah. And
the defense may hold Chicago down all day, but will the offense come to play? Now, this will be the second week that Kelsey's back from his injury. They'll have another week to practice and get on the same page. Kadarius Toney did not drop any passes last week when he was out there until he hurt his ankle or something. They got a lot of confidence in Sky Moore. I'd love to see some Justin Ross out there. They keep using Justin Watson on the deep balls, but I'd love to see some Justin Ross and some Rashee Rice, the second-round draft pick this year for Kansas City.
Yeah. Honestly, for a $5 bet, Chiefs cover the spread wouldn't be a bad bet because it's $5 at the end of the day. But I
would parlay it. I would parlay it.
Me too.
Maybe get a Pacheco touchdown on the ground because they obviously can't stop the run. And then Kelsey scores.
I think I can see Kelsey scoring 3 touchdowns in that game, to be honest.
You want to see the Bears lose so bad.
I really don't care. I wouldn't be mad if the Bears honestly beat KC. Wouldn't be mad. I would actually have fun teasing the KC fans.
I can't believe this.
But I just don't see it happening.
I can't believe the Raiders are favored by 2.5 against the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think the Steelers offense gets well against the Raiders. The defense is going to do what they got to do. TJ Watt and the boys are coming after Jimmy Garoppolo. This will be the game Garoppolo gets hurt.
Well, here's the thing,
Jason Stidham or whoever the Aiden O'Connell, I think, is the backing now.
Here's the thing, though. The Steelers have struggled on offense in both games.
They're going to get well against the Raider defense.
They got it. I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm just saying that's probably why Raiders are favored. because their offense has struggled to the point is they're not guaranteeing that the Steelers can overtake.
Who do you like in the game? Who do you like?
What game? Monday night?
No,
Or
the
Sunday?
Steelers and the Raiders. Who are you picking?
I'm gonna pick this. I'm gonna pick this. See, this is hard for me because I believe in Jimmy G as long as he's healthy. But that defense has me questioning everything. So I'm gonna have to probably lead to the Steelers just because I know they got a very solid defense and they got TJ Watt right now running like a madman all over the field. So
Monday
I'm gonna
Night
go with the Steelers.
Football. Monday Night Football actually has a couple of really good games. Okay, you got defending NFC champions, the
depends
Eagles.
here.
They are going to Baker Mayfield and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Okay, Tampa's got defense. They're playing at home. If the Eagles, I think the Eagles win the game by getting Baker Mayfield to turn the ball over. Okay, because their offensive line has not been challenged by a real defensive front yet. I think that that's going to be the difference in the game. The Eagles are favored in the game to win by 5, which means if they win by a touchdown, that covers the spread. I would go with that in this particular instance.
I would go with that, but I am going to say this. The defense for the Eagles has been money. The offense has struggled both games. Both games, I felt like both of their games could have been easily blowouts by them. They allowed teams to hang around. They still got the dub because of defense, and I still think they get the dub here on Monday night. But I will say this, if that offense struggles and Baker still keeps playing like the way he's playing with no picks, not turning the ball over, making smart decisions with that football, they could find themselves losing this game if that's the case. But like you said, they had that great defensive line. That's going to put a lot of pressure on Baker. But we haven't seen a Baker this confident in quite a few years playing quarterback. So I'm actually really excited for that game because I plan on watching that game from the first quarter to the last quarter and rooting for my boy Baker. Even if I put money on the Eagles, I might still find myself in the corner rooting for his comeback.
I'll tell you what I did last night for the Monday night games. We've got Hulu, and we got 2 screens. So I had the Carolina New Orleans Saint game on my laptop, and it's on a table right in front of me, and I'm watching the big screen with the Steelers and the Browns behind it. And whenever it would go to a commercial, I would flip them or whatever, so that whatever was what I needed to watch was on the big screen, and I'm paying attention. I luckily had the Steelers on the big screen the first play of the game last night when Highsmith intercepted the ball and took it for the touchdown right out of the gate.
The hot potato.
Good thing I had this on the right channel.
I actually yelled out loud by myself too. I was like, hot potato!
Yeah.
One guy had it, shot out his head, and the next guy got it and gone.
Yeah, Mika Fitzpatrick and then Alex Highsmith. All right, so the last game is another Monday Night Football game. And, you got one on ESPN, one on ABC. This one here, I don't expect Joe Burrow to play. And if he does, he's going to be limited because of that calf. They're going to put him in harm's way if he plays because Aaron Donald's going to be coming. Okay?
Oh, yeah.
And with the Rams having the number 2 offense, they've already gone on the road to Seattle now, and they played at home and played very tough against the 49ers. The Bengals are in a tough spot here. I like the Rams to go on the road, even though the Bengals are favored by 1 point, 1.5 points. I like the Rams to go on the road. I like the Rams to win the game. I just think that, Matt Stafford's got the heart of a champion. He's got a good defense that's young and fast behind him. And, the running game has come alive with this young Kieran Williams. He's getting the ball out to the different receivers. And the Bengals have struggled on offense. Okay. They struggled in the first half against Baltimore. They struggled the whole game and only put up 3 points against Cleveland. If the Rams defense is decent at all, they're going to struggle, against them. I just don't see how I could pick the Bengals in this game, even though the Bengals are playing at home.
I can't disagree with you by any means. I think the Rams win this. I think Aaron Donald gets enough pressure on Joe if he plays. If Joe can't be mobile if he plays, he's going to have a long night, and they're going to put him in harm's way. But if Joe don't play, I see if Joe don't play, I don't think Cincinnati stands a chance.
I agree.
No way.
Well, that's all we got. We previewed week 3. We reviewed week 2. We talked about the news in the NFL this week. I want to thank everybody for joining us here on the Tuesday Night Spectacular. Chris, it's fun as always when we get a chance to talk football.
Always
and I
fun.
hope you guys will like and subscribe the video. You can find it under your name and also under 4th and Goal Sports on YouTube. You can catch us on Facebook and all of the different groups that we share this video to.
We're also on Twitch and Kick underneath 4th and Goal Sports as well. So you can find us on there as well if you don't want to stream through Facebook. That's fine. We're on there as well. And also, I started kind of spur of the moment, had an opportunity to help a friend out. She wanted to do a show with NFC North, and she wanted me to produce it. So I agreed to produce it. You can catch us. That will be on Sundays around 10 a.m. and we'll end around 12:30 at the latest, just because we're not going to talk when games are going on. So if you're around on Sunday and you're an NFC North fan and you want to jump on, or you just want to come on, comment, and talk football in general, you're more than welcome to join that one too. It'd be on 4th and Goal Sports as well. So we'll see you on Sunday. And if not, we'll see you back here on Tuesday of next week when we discuss how the Bears upset KC.
Go to my page, or you can find me on YouTube for Picks with David. We do it on Thursday and also on Sunday. Have a good week, and we'll see you next time.
See you guys next time. Later, guys. We'll holler at you later, David.